Once more and to the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the wall up with our English dead. In peace, there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger.
The problem we've seen over the past 10 years or so is that the quality of all local media has suffered from a lack of investment. The owners, Tindle being one of them, are just refusing to recognise that quality journalism makes a quality paper, which means that more people will read it, more people will talk about it. As the quality suffers because of lack of investment, lack of staffing, readership goes down, the advertising goes down, and we're in a vicious circle at the moment where everything is going wrong. And I think there's a big myth that the internet has destroyed local media. That's not true. Back when newspaper companies started making massive cuts, the internet was no threat at all. And what's happened effectively is people are using new media now to fill in the gaps that aren't being covered by local media.
Privileged to address you all today, and thanks for having me. It's quite inspiring to be here, and we found this all week through our strike action. It really has been inspiring, getting support from all over the country, and it makes you realise that going on strike's not a bad thing at all. It can be very positive.
I'm chief photographer at North London and Herts newspapers, and we decided to go on strike because when I started working with the paper, it was 7 years ago, and we had 4 newspapers and 8 reporters putting the papers out. Now we've got 3 reporters and 9 newspapers.
It's a disgusting workload, working long hours, working weekends, and we just said enough now, enough's enough. We can't take this anymore. Our papers used to be original, they used to be full of life, they had real fire in their belly, and now they're reduced to very bland, boring, derivative exercises. There's lots of press releases. We haven't got time to do a proper job on it.
We're owned by a guy called Sir Tindle. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He calls himself the saviour of local newspapers. The saviour of local newspapers refuses to invest in us, refuses to give us more staff. We're finding it increasingly difficult to get a quality product out to our readers. And we found out in February he gave £250,000 to the Newspaper Society for the upkeep of local newspapers.
All over the country, local newspapers used to be at the heart of the community, really. They're setting the agenda, starting campaigns, investigating corruption, standing up for the man in the street. And now, through lack of resources, we're being shunted to the periphery. That's how it does feel. So,
decided after 12 months of negotiating, ACAS were involved, that we would go out on strike and try and prove a point. So we went out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday last week. We're out the 3 days again this week, and hopefully something will come of it.
Just thanks for the opportunity to be here. It's nice to speak to you.
People in the trade union movement who've been on dispute and can tell us about the dispute. You've come a long way up here today, and you can see from the reaction there's tremendous support from you here.
Bring back hungry black reporters, survey. Bring back hungry black reporters, survey.
I wanted to come and visit the picket because this is a really, really important strike for us, not just for yourself, but I think for the whole union, because it goes right to the heart of the big campaign that we've been running for ages now, which is about quality journalism. And it's just not possible to produce good papers or good radio programmes or internet pages if you don't have reporters. I mean, it goes right to the very basic stuff. Unless you can go out and ask people what's going on and find out what the news is, you're not going to be able to put it onto the pages of a newspaper. And this company are just cutting back, and so it becomes impossible to produce a decent newspaper that people want to read. And that's, people understand that newspapers are really, really important to the local community, and people only realise how important they are when they're not there any longer. And we've got to make sure that doesn't happen in Enfield and the other parts of London where you're producing newspapers.
The last day of a fortnight's protest against cuts to local newspapers is taking place this morning in Farnham. 9 journalists from the Enfield Advertiser, which is owned by Surrey's Tindle Newspaper Group, will be holding a street party outside their headquarters. Intrigued, Alex Stefanovic has more.
In 2009, the Guardian Media Group closed 8 titles across Surrey and Hampshire, resulting in the loss of 95 jobs. More recently this year, the Woking News and Mail also closed with the loss of 20 staff. The dispute by the journalists, dubbed the Enfield 9, is about the paper's staff who are leaving but not being replaced. The organisers of today's event says it's a peaceful protest, but feel that newspaper bosses are valuing greedy profit margins over journalism. However, the company say they have not made any journalists redundant in the downturn.
To Jonathan Lovett from the NUJ, who's here me now. Jonathan, there's a party going on this morning, and I'm sure there are good reasons for doing that, reflecting the general mood of the nation, but there's a very serious point going on. Just how difficult is it running or being part of a journalism team on a local newspaper nowadays?
Hi, morning, Nick. Good to speak to you. It's very difficult. We are really up against it. In Enfield, we've got three reporters. Get this, news reporters churning out 9 newspapers. We're totally up against it. I think the glory days of journalism seem to have gone. There's been a gradual erosion of the quality of the papers. So reporters these days, I know a few years ago you could go out, you can investigate, you can try and make a difference. These days they're stuck behind their computers, working long hours, late into the night, working weekends. It certainly ain't what it used to be, and we're making a stand against that, for trying to make a stand for quality journalism.
We bring in Ray Tindle, who is the founder of the Tindle Newspaper Group. You're being accused of effectively profiteering at the expense of your staff and journalism, Mr. Tindle.
Oh, well, good morning to you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on this one. Now, the profit that's being talked about would be wonderful if it were true. The fact is, at Enfield, we've lost over £600,000 in the 3 years of the recession, and the neighbouring papers are losing money as well.
Seems to be suggesting that Mr. Tindle says you're not living in the real world here. Papers are making a loss, and therefore you have to cut your cloth accordingly.
There's money there, Nick, I assure you. The parent company, Tindle Newspapers, made a clear £3 million profit last year. So there is certainly money there to help out the Enfield 9.
What is happening right now is that papers are suffering rather badly, and I personally addressed the entire staff at Enfield at 2:30 on the 11th of April, only 3 weeks ago, and I told them all of the losses, and I asked them all to join in with us to find a solution. And the vast majority of the staff, 30 to 40 of them, stayed and are helping us to find that solution.
Well, I sincerely wish you all the very best in hope in finding that solution, because I am someone who believes very strongly in local journalism, whether it's broadcast journalism or local newspapers, and it would be a terrible thing if the local newspapers in this part of the world and in the wider Tindle Newspaper Group empire were to disappear. My thanks to Ray Tindle, the founder of the Tindle Newspaper Group, and also to Jonathan Lovett of the NUJ, who is part of the protest that will be taking place in Farnham today outside the Tindle Newspaper Group's headquarters.
Trying to canvass here for local papers. No. I'll have to post them. Well, we've got a few more actually. Your local newspaper down your feet. Support your local papers. There's a lot more actually. Actually, we might as well put a few more just to make sure they get the message. I'm sure they've got friends and relatives, neighbours that want to tell about this.
Let's see what.
So just there you go. They might want to distribute it amongst friends. There we go.